What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel and check out the content. Recently, I was just watching Jason Whitlock, and Jason Whitlock, he just did a segment on like black men fearing black women, right? And I thought he made some good points. Um, and some interesting points. I'm going to let you listen to the audio from what he said, and then I'm going to come back and give my take. And what really brought this conversation on, I thought, with Jason Whitlock is his response or his take on what Ryan Clark said about what's the guy named RG3 and the way Ryan Clark went after RG3 because of him saying that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. And to be honest, I don't disagree with what Ryan Clark said, but I do disagree with like the way RG3 presented that situation and saying that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, which I mean, he really can't know that. He can't be sure about that. And so, I was kind of on Ryan Clark's side, but Jason Whitlock gave a different point of view, a different perspective on like black men and black women and how black men respond to black women and handle black women. And sometimes it might seems like that black men are afraid of black women. So I'm gonna listen to Jason Whitlock, and then I'm gonna give some more.
What I'm saying, is it done to glorify me? Is it done to glorify God? Is it a representation? Something that I'm saying that at some point, Ryan Clark took to the internet to explain his criticism of RG3. And this is he says, I know who I am and what I said and what I tweet. That let me get to that tweet. Who I am and why I said this. Anyway, he tweeted out, in no way tripping on any of it. Know exactly who I am, what I said, why I said it, and who I said it for. I can live with everything else. I want to dissect that. Leave that up on screen for a moment here. So the first thing he says is, I know who I am. Know exactly who I am. Well, tell us. And Ryan Clark claims to be some sort of Christian. That's what he claims. I don't think that's what he's saying here. This is my speculation, but Ryan Clark can clarify. I think he's saying, I know exactly who I am. And what he's saying is, I'm a black man. Then he says, I know what I said and why I said it. And what he said, obviously, is RG3 can't talk about black women because he's not married to a black woman. That's what he said. And he knows why he said it. And then why he said it. He said it because he has animus towards RG3 and because he wants to defend black women. That's why he said it. And then he goes on to who I said it for. And this last part is what really bothers me about Ryan Clark and his profession that he's a Christian, that he's doing some sort of Christian walk. He's not. And I know people get very upset when I point this out. But when he says who I said it for, as a Christian, when you start putting things like this in writing, crystal clear, who I said it for, did he say this for God? I don't think that could be his argument. I don't think his attack on RG3 and RG3's white wife, he can't possibly be saying, I did this for God. And as a Christian...
Let me stop it right here real quick, right? I didn't really interpret what Ryan Clark says as what he said was an attack on RG3's white wife, right? I thought that I took it as Ryan Clark standing up for Angel Reese. Everybody don't agree with like like Angel Reese's reaction to the situation. Even Ryan Clark's co-host, what's the guy? The running back, I forgot his name, but he was his co-host on the Pivot podcast. I think his name is it Fred Taylor. It might be Fred Taylor. But even he said that Angel, kind of like overreacted a little bit in that situation, right? And so with that, even with that being said, I think that in my opinion, that Ryan Clark was still justified and kind of like on one hand defending Angel Reese, and on the other hand, I think like there's a side where we have to be able to pull Angel Reese's coattail and tell her like that's not the way to to react to certain situations. Like you have to be more intelligent about the way you handle different situations, knowing that certain stereotypes are out there and that people you don't want to help people to promote those stereotypes. So that's the situation. That's the way I interpret that situation with Ryan Clark. And the aesthetics, like I said, the aesthetics of how RG3 went about it, I just thought it just was a bad look for RG3, number one. And I thought that RG3 just telling saying that she has hate for Caitlin Clark, it just kind of like stirs up some stuff that really don't need to be stirred up. And then you can't even be sure of like how they, if she hate the young lady or not. So it's just crazy what RG3 did, in my opinion. But let me go on, because I do think that from here on out, I think that Jason Whitlock makes some interesting points.
Christian, that should be top of mind. Is what I'm saying, is it done to glorify me? Is it done to glorify God? Is it a representation, something that I'm saying that is consistent with God's word? Or is Ryan Clark copying to what I believe he said? I said this for Black women. That's who he said it for. And that is my overall point here, the worship of women. This is the religion of many Black men. This is the religion of many Black women. This is the religion of feminists. Remove color from it. Feminism is the worship of women. Feminism taps into the divine feminine. Feminism is why so many Black men wake up every day thinking about, how can I not get crossways with the woman that I'm sleeping with, because I worship her and I don't want to get crossways with her. In everything that I do and say that comes out of my mouth, and every action I say, I want to be in obedience to women. The worship of women is the problem destroying America. And it is destroyed so-called Black America. There's no more feminist group than Black America. Black women at what, a 95% rate support the political party, the Democrats, that want to impose the matriarchy and want to impose the worship of women everywhere. And so you're going to hear me say some things about Black women, and you're going to hear, well, he's picking out Black. I'm really talking about feminists, and I'm talking.
All right. So my take on that, right? As far as like Black men like worshiping Black women, I think, like I think a lot of Black men have been in a situation where we don't want to really like start the arguments, or we try to avoid arguments. So sometimes we'll let things just, just slide, because we don't, if you do sometimes go against a woman, and you, it's just going to be a whole lot of drama. So sometimes people feel like it's a whole lot easier to just just to not even to try to ignore stuff. That's if it's something that can be ignored. I joke with one of my female friends. Um, we talk about like lying or like why men lie. And I tell, I said sometimes it's easier to lie to a woman and just tell a woman what she want to hear because you don't want to hear all that arguing. You don't want to hear, you don't want the drama that come along with like telling people the truth. But then as you get older, you realize that, all you do when you lie is just you just make the situation worse and you create more of a monster. You create a person that's more entitled. So, and I kind of think now, like with this social media age and like people posting so much stuff, far as like these different red pills and all this different stuff like that. I think people are getting the idea and more being more comfortable with just telling the truth. Like if you out of line or if you acting rude or you doing something inappropriate, like you men just got to be honest with women and just let them know that that's not really benefiting you. It's not really making the community look good. And so that's what men have to do, even though sometimes it will cause an argument. But really what you really need to do is just separate yourself from women who act out in certain ways. And just I think they'll get the message. And now this is not for all women. I most women I know don't even really don't really act like that. But you do have a couple, a handful that are really, that'll really act out and then wonder like if you say something to them like you are the bad guy, for calling women out. But I don't see Ryan Clark being afraid of of speaking, of telling the truth about what happened with Angel Reese or any other woman. I think sometimes even though when a woman is wrong, you know, you want to correct her, but you don't want to correct her publicly, right? And so, and I've been in that situation, right? Like a friend of mine, me and a friend of mine, she got into a situation, and I knew the situation was wrong, and I stepped in, to to kind of like minimize the situation. And then when we got away from the situation, out of the situation, I just explained to her that like, don't ever do that again. And if you do something like that again when I'm around you, then I'm just gonna have to we can't be out in public if you're gonna act like that. Because sometimes women will put you at risk. They'll put a man at risk and think that the man is supposed to co-sign on her nonsense when she is wrong as two left shoes. And I even had a friend tell me that one time. She was like, I could be wrong as two left shoes, and such and such to support me. Or he got my back. And I'm like, well, if you know that this person is that loyal to you and they care for you enough to back you up, why would you put them at risk like that? Like because where we come from, like, you can, things could go, they can go bad real fast. So why would you take that respect and that loyalty for granted and put this person at risk? And so that's why I say it's important to just be honest with women and just tell them when you think that they are being, when they out of order. You gotta tell them, you gotta let them know, because all you do is, like I said, you just create a monster. You make situations even worse, and and you put your own self at risk. But I don't think that, and I'm not even sure if what's the guy, Jason Whitlock, was trying to say Ryan Clark is afraid of women. But sometimes men just do that because they don't, they let things slide because they don't want all the arguing and the drama and stuff that come along with arguing or disagreeing with women. So yeah, but we gotta definitely, men, we gotta be better at just letting women know that bad behavior is bad behavior, and there's a time and a place for everything, and you kind of handle certain things a certain way. So that's my take on it. Um, Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.